bases dropped on an absolutely gorgeous Monday morning in Atlanta, Georgia. Don't look out the window. That's not going to help you. It's not going to show how beautiful it is. You need to look back at some scoreboards and some highlights from last night. Atlanta United 3-0 winners in the Eastern Conference Finals, first leg over the New York Red Bulls. It was a wild night at Mercedes-Benz Stadium all the way around. Lots of things to get into, lots of different talking points to dig into, but most importantly, we'll be taking your reactions throughout the show. Tweet at us. Overreaction Monday is the hashtag. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. We will get to just about everything, if we can, as the show goes on this morning. But first, if you have not heard them, these are the highlights as it was called from the 92.9 The Game booth last night. Mike Conti on the call. Here you go.
Jeff Lorenowitz coming forward into the attacking third. Lorenowitz will play it to the back post. Joseph is there! Shoots! Score! And Atlanta United has a 1-0 lead on Joseph Martinez's third goal of the postseason. They'll play it back to Kaku. He'll drive it up to the penalty spot, and it's headed down by Aaron Long. And loose at the spot, and they score! Bradley Wright Phillips. Red Bulls get a road goal and have equalized in the 53rd minute. Stott has already taken a look, blows his whistle, and no goal! No goal! No goal! Lorenowitz almost took it away in the midfield, and it bounces up to Almiron somehow. Almiron turns at the top of the arc, leaves it through to Gressel, coming into the six, crosses to Joseph, he leaves it off, Escobar shot, score! What a team goal by the Five Stripes! And it's 2-0 to Atlanta United. Escobar sends it through to Villalba. Villalba with Barco in front of him. Villalba shot! Score! And now it can be over! Can this really be Atlanta United? A trip to the Eastern Conference Final, a trip to the MLS Cup Final, 90 minutes away.
Yeah, it was an excitable night last night at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. If you couldn't tell, we were a little pumped in the radio booth, as were the 70,000 plus screaming lunatic fans in with all of the love that I can possibly muster. It was great. Jason Longshore, John Nelson, Jarrett Smith with you this morning. And, John, I didn't really get into a whole lot of debrief with you after the game. What did you think from your view of what happened?
If you had told me it was going to be 3-0, I would have shook my head about as hard as humanly possible, and did not anticipate this as a result. You know, I had stuck all week with my 1-0 close to the vest affair, and it just looked like Red Bulls weren't Red Bulls, and Atlanta United took complete advantage of that. And we had mentioned the play of, Franco Escobar this season, and Jarrett, you had made the point. Just think what would have happened if Escobar had been around healthy for an entire season. I think that was one of the things that stuck to me, is that you wonder how folks have integrated, and they've integrated really well. But then you look at a guy like Escobar and you just wonder what could have been. You're taking what you've gotten, trust me, but you also kind of put in the back of your brain your thought about what it would have been if he had been around for the entire season healthy.
Jarrett, what about you? What were your big takeaways from last night?
Well, in the words of everyone's least favorite Florida Gators head coach, Jim McElwain, and it probably should have been worse. That was, on one hand, it was unexpected because I think I fully expected Red Bulls to take a different approach than they did, even without Kamar Lawrence. But, man, that That was mean. That was mean what Atlanta did to him. But and I tweeted that afterward. That was what I expected in the first game in Mercedes-Benz if Joseph's goal doesn't get called back, and Atlanta gets up on Red Bulls and starts leveraging on them. That's what can happen. I think that's what was on the way to happening in the first matchup before VAR happened and Atlanta lost their heads and lost their emotional stability. And there was no VAR to take this one away. In fact, VAR took away a goal from New York, confusingly but rightly. And Greg Garza said as much after the game that once that happened, they saw it as, okay, we're going to go ahead and bury them now because they just had it go against them. And while they kind of take a minute to process how they lost a goal, we're going to go ahead and bury them.
Yeah, the whole VAR process was kind of odd from a live broadcast perspective. I'll walk you through how we saw it. The goal's right in front of us. Didn't see anything live. First replays they show, I see Long go up, forearm in the back of Escobar a little bit. When they go to VAR, I'm like, if that's what they're going to VAR about, that's really soft. Then, you're looking, well, no, that's not it. Is there somebody offside? And you didn't see it at first because he wasn't directly involved in the play in terms of touching the ball. Then you see the angle with Muil, and you're like, okay, he's offside, but where is he? Like, is he in a spot that's dangerous? Because you're looking at it from the side. When they flipped it and showed that shot, then went to the camera behind the goal, and you could see from behind Brad Gazan that Alex Muil is between the ball and Gazan, blocking his vision, and you see Brad's late reaction to the shot. Well, there you go. It's the right call. It's a harsh call because it's one that doesn't happen a ton, but it has happened this year. I remember Joseph Martinez and Sean Johnson and that incident. That was goalkeeper interference. This was goalkeeper interference. It does happen. It doesn't happen often, so it's not quite as obvious to the eye when you're watching it. It was the correct call. It was the correct call, and it did have an effect on the Red Bulls. I don't think it had the same effect that the call did on Atlanta, and that's a credit to New York. They hung around. Even after that happened, they didn't look completely shaken by it. They kept going. They give up the second goal. They still kept going. They were in it, and if they had gotten one back at 2-1, that's a different conversation on Thursday. So New York handled the VAR situation pretty well. It was the right call. I don't think there's a whole lot of argument now about it being the wrong call. And it was a clear and obvious effect on the play. Now, was it a clear and obvious error from the naked eye? I didn't see it. I didn't see it watching it live, but I'm also on the side. I don't have that angle to be able to say that it is because I can't see where Brad Gazan's line of sight is from the angle that I have. If you're behind the goal, if you're sitting behind the goal, you're going to see that completely differently than somebody on the side. It's why you have a VAR. It's why you have, that whole setup, and that's what they're supposed to do. I really do think, though, the communication thing has to get better because, again, we didn't really know until I saw the replay with Muil in an offside position, and I thought maybe he's between Gazan and the ball. Okay, maybe it's him. I kind of speculated that, I think about the same time that Taylor Twellman did on the TV broadcast, as he kind of speculated that maybe that's it. But neither one of us were sure until a good bit afterwards, after the plays restarted. Nobody in the stadium had a clue. It's just that's the stuff that's got to change. The language has to change about when VAR gets involved. I think the clear and obvious error tag needs to go because it just opens up too much controversy, debate, whatever. Just get rid of that and communicate the decision. You have to use the assistant VAR, which there was one, at least by name. You have to use them to share the information with TV, with radio, with PA announcer. Those things have to happen. like starting next season. They have to happen starting Thursday, to be perfectly clear, but they're not. They have to happen going forward because it just brings too much confusion into a situation that, I mean, it was the right call, but you didn't know that. I don't know if all the Red Bulls players knew that. I don't know. So I want that to change. But that was a small part of the match last night, thankfully. I'm glad that wasn't what decided it. I'm glad it wasn't a 1-0 win with that taking New York's equalizer away, and that's it. I'm glad it is more of a footnote and not the main story as we've seen in the past with VAR. I'm still blown away by just the entire atmosphere around the match. Tifo was amazing. Everybody getting in the building early was amazing. The absolute volume of noise throughout the match. I don't often take one of my earpieces off my ear in that because I'd like to be able to hear what's going on because you guys are really freaking loud. But last night at the end, after the Tito goal, I had to because I had to hear it. I had to experience it. And it was crazy because it would be a sustained roar, and then somehow it would get louder, and it'd stay there for a minute. Then at the final whistle, it somehow found another level of volume. It felt like the table in front of me was shaking at times. It was crazy. Media everywhere. Eric Quintana tweeted a picture last night of the media crush afterwards, trying to get quotes, get pictures, all of that. I would have never guessed that Justin Felder from Fox 5 would be tweeting out Abuelita, Abuelita. Would have never guessed that would happen in our wonderful city of Atlanta, Georgia. But that happened with Joseph Martinez handing his jersey over to his grandmother, who was in the front row. Just all the stuff from last night was unbelievable, and it's not done yet. That's the thing that you do have to come back around to, is it's not done yet. But before we go to break, before we get into your overreactions, I wanted to share this tweet from Doug Shipman. Doug Shipman is with the High Museum of Art, Atlanta Symphony, Alliance Theater. He was previously the CEO of the Center for Civil and Human Rights and helped get that facility off the ground and launched. His tweet last night really hit me. He said, I love coming to Atlanta United matches. Why? Everybody is here, and they are all happy and positive. It's one of the only public venues these days with this much diversity and positivity in the same place. It's Atlanta. It's the true representation of what Atlanta is. And last night, from getting to the Gulch and seeing it packed so early to just the whole vibe from beginning to end, walking back to the Gulch late with people dancing and singing and celebrating in the rain, unbelievable. And don't let anybody ever tell you otherwise. It was amazing. It was special, and it's a night that I think anybody who was there will always remember. I want your reactions to all of that. I want your reactions to the match. I want your reactions to the tactics. I want your reactions to Chris Armas's tactics. And I want your reactions to where Atlanta United is at this stage. 3-0 lead going into the second leg. 90 minutes at Red Bull Arena. The only way it goes to extra time is if it's 3-0 New York at the end of 90 minutes. Then you're going to 30 minutes of extra time. No other score can give you extra time. That's where we stand going into the second leg on Thursday. We're going to take a quick break, reset, get into your reactions on the other side. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, Yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
Had to be independent and take initiative, and that's how I handle every project I get.
discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski and Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, overreaction Monday after Atlanta United's 3-0 win over the New York Red Bulls in the first leg of the Eastern Conference Finals. Reactions starting to come in. We'll get into those starting now. First one I wanted to hit was from Tyler Rice. Said the ESPN broadcast had the crowd so quiet. Seriously, can hardly hear it. They need to work on how they mic the crowd. It sounds dead on their broadcast and doesn't come close to what it was truly like. The crowd is always louder on a Fox broadcast. I went back and watched it last night. I did have the sound turned down a little bit, and I wasn't hanging on every word as I was tweeting with people and sending messages and stuff like that. But it did have a different feel, and I have noticed that just the presentation style of ESPN and Fox are different. It has a different sound every time, and it's not just in Atlanta. That's pretty much everywhere. Even to the point that I did see some takes from people who were not in the building, not in either building, saying that the Portland crowd was better than the Atlanta crowd. And the Portland crowd's great. It doesn't have to be a better or worse thing, but 70,000 plus and as loud as it was, I seriously, if I had not had a headset on and did not have a microphone in my ear, I don't know how well I could have heard him standing next to me. It was that loud. So to say that, it was a quiet crowd or whatever, no. I don't know, and John, you've got far more experience on TV production and that side of things. I don't know if it's just a, preference, if it's a production preference. I don't know if it's the way you're micing the crowd. I mean, I can't imagine that Fox would know something about miking a crowd that ESPN wouldn't, but it is seemingly a consistent thing where it has a different feel between the two broadcasts.
Yeah, it is a production choice. You sometimes, there are different things in play. It's either wanting to hear the announcers over the crowd. Sometimes the mix is slightly announcer over nat sound. It also comes down to how many microphones you actually have on site and what you invest in the production. How many of the parabolic, those big circular microphones in the business that we call parabs, how many parabolic microphones do you have on the sidelines? Where are your house mics? How is the place wired? Those kinds of things. And then how is it mixed into the truck? Do you put it at 50-50 because you want to hear your announcers? And, how do you ride that audio wave the entire time? So there are a couple of different things in play. It's how in-depth is the production? How do you want it heard? Do you want to hear your announcers as a dominant voice in all of this? So there are ways and different elements involved in all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it sounded dead. I think that might be a little bit of an overreaction, Tyler. It did sound loud, and Healy and Twelman commented on how the crowd sounded many times, but it does sound different between the two. And you can kind of compare and contrast the ESPN broadcast and Fox broadcast in the same building. I think it just comes down to the way they want to present the broadcast. Is what it is. It's just a preference thing.
I guess we'll start with Steve Orlando for his hashtag overreaction Monday. Does a 40-degree night give the Red Bulls a big enough advantage to make up the goal difference question mark? Hashtag overreaction Monday.
I don't think it makes a difference. If anything, it helps Atlanta because you're not trying to, you don't have to carry the game. You can sit and defend more here. So if you could sit and defend a 1-0 lead in Minnesota in far worse conditions with 10 men, I think you can handle that weather-wise. I don't think that'll have the effect on it. It actually does. 40 degrees in New York this time of year, I'll take that. That's not as bad as it could have been.
It's downright balmy.
I'll still have the hand warmers for sure.
Thomas Gwynn says, I'm very happy so far. You can all thank me on Twitter since I won't be able to listen to the show live. And he references a previous tweet where he says 3-0 and score first in New Jersey would make me happy.
Yeah, he's I'll take it.
Yep. Yep.
Didn't see it coming. Would have never had anything to base that on other than just heart, because the way New York has played coming into this against Atlanta, it's just difficult. It's been difficult for Atlanta, but this was the biggest surprise to me. And watching the TV broadcast back last night, I think Taylor might have commented on it just a little bit before I did, but there was a sequence where I believe it was Connor Lade who just played it long over the top because nothing was on, and this is typical for the Red Bulls. Bradley Wright Phillips slowed everybody down and said, "Don't press." And that's where it became obvious to me that, New York is doing something different here. And I kept thinking that, okay, they're conserving energy. They're going to pick their spots to dial up the press because they have to press. They're the Red Bulls. They press. That's what they do. That's their identity. Why would they not press? Unless you're conserving energy for a full 180 minutes, because that's been an issue for the Red Bulls in previous playoff series where they run out of gas in the second leg. Well, they never pressed. They never did what they do. And Jarrett, that's a huge part of this match. As good as Atlanta was, New York made it easier for them to do what they do in some ways. That was the biggest surprise to me, was seeing New York play essentially a 4-4-1-1 that was pretty narrow with Bradley Wright Phillips and Kaku behind him, and then two lines of four that weren't deep but were very compact, trying to defend all day instead of getting on the front foot and pressing.
Yeah, it was. I would love to be in the mind of the players and coaches for Atlanta United to see what they were thinking when they saw that, like in action. Like, oh, they're not okay, really? Interesting. They're not here in my face. Okay, I guess we'll just take it to them and hold the ball and just, I think as you said, Jason, just kind of sit with the ball in their final third all day, and we'll pick our spots. And Jeff Loretowitz will put in one of the best balls you'll see to Joseph Martinez. I mean, Atlanta would seem to be kind of like, okay, well, yeah, we'll just hold the ball and try and just pepper your goal and see what we can create and kind of feel you out without overcommitting to everything. And yeah, I mean,
the reason I'd say it's not that simple in terms of Atlanta holding the ball because New York didn't press is it didn't go down like that. What Atlanta did was get into New York's half and then hold the ball, which it sounds like it's semantics, but it's not. It's really going back to, I remember writing a piece for Dirty South Soccer digging into Tata Martino's tactics at Newell's Old Boys. And that's where the talk came about verticalidad. And verticalidad is about playing in the opposition's half, getting into the opposition half as quickly as possible and playing over there, not playing in your own half. What New York does to you is when they play their normal game, they want you to try to play in your own half and build up play, and they press and they cause mistakes and they score goals. In this one, they didn't press, which made it easier for Atlanta to get out of their own half, but also Atlanta just played in New York's half in the first half. You know, the possession stats were 62-38 at halftime. The overwhelming majority of Atlanta's possession was in their attacking half, in New York's defensive half. That's very different. And that was a big part of the key here, because if you're not risking trying to play out of the back, but you can still control possession, you're likely not going to lose. I mean, it's just that simple. Because if you have more of the ball and you're not potentially having a mistake in your own half to give up a golden scoring chance, it's really hard for the opposition to get any chances. It's really simple when you boil it down to that. That's why I was so surprised about the Red Bulls. They didn't make an adjustment at halftime. You know, the possession numbers changed, and New York had more of the ball in the second half because Atlanta had the lead. And New York had to chase the game, especially after the second goal. They really had to chase it. I was baffled by Chris Armas' choices. The Jeff Larinowitz goal is a prime example because he picks up possession inside the attacking half, 40, 45 yards from goal, and he has at least 15 yards in front of him to walk into. And when you give Jeff Larinowitz the time to walk the ball up and pick out a pass, he's going to do it. And Tim Parker somehow loses connection with Joseph Martinez. Larinowitz drops a dime over Parker's head to Joseph. Joseph chests it down and finishes. And Jarrett, the finish, I didn't notice it quite as strongly until you mentioned it afterwards. The little pump fake, and Joseph is so good at these things, where it's either a little like shoulder move or a little hesitation. He's so good at throwing off goalkeepers, whether it's 1v1 on the dribble or like this situation with Robles. That little hesitation gets Robles going one way, Joseph finishes the other side.
Yeah, the marbles it takes to be sitting there in a playoff game to have chested down a ball, it's bouncing. You have one of the best goalkeepers that this league's ever seen closing you down, and to not just lash at it, but to let it take the extra bounce and to feint your body into making them think you were not going to let it take that extra bounce. Man. And then to calmly just smash the living hell out of it. It was beautiful. It was amazing. And kind of just like it encapsulated last night. Like, Joseph just brings it down. He's calm. Takes the extra second on it because he was afforded the extra second and did the job. Atlanta was calm. They had extra time. They took advantage of it. I still can't get over how... And look, I get it. They were trying to compensate with Connor Lade in there instead of Kamar Lawrence. Yeah, Greg Garza could claim eminent domain on the left side of the field at times last night. He could have like just tossed grenades out in front of him, and he wouldn't have hurt anybody. There's nobody out there.
But and see that's different though, and this is where when you go away from your identity. So you're not going to high press, okay? Then you're going to sit back, not sit deep. You're not bunkering, but you're going to play a high line with no press, 2 lines of 4, and narrow. What do you do to counter that if you're Atlanta United? You do what you had planned if the team was going to press. You go diagonal, you go over the top, you hit those long switches of play, and you get a team stretched out. So New York's really good at cutting the field in half, but when you play over that, then oh well. And you saw that time and time again to Escobar and to Garza, where Escobar and Connor Lade 1v1, you're going to play that and let Franco go up and try to get it. When you get everybody over on the right side of the field for Atlanta, Greg Garza is going to have space on the left. That's how you handle a Red Bulls team when they press. It's even easier to do it when they're not pressing. And you just get them going side to side. It's something Atlanta does so well, and they've done it so well all season. The possession numbers that Paul Carr posted last week with Planet Football showed how patient Atlanta can be in possession, building up attacks. We haven't seen it this way where they were patient in possession in the attacking half because they were afforded that luxury, because it was a luxury. I'm still blown away by the tactical plan from Chris Armas. You cannot go away from your identity in the first leg of a conference final because of one injury. You can't, because you're taking one injury and having that affect 10 other players on the field. You can't have that happen. You have to trust in the next man up. Connor Lade is not a brand new guy to this team. Connor Lade understands the way this team plays. His last playoff start was in 2012. He's been around a while. He's played a lot with New York Red Bulls too. Is he Kamar Lawrence? No. That's why he's not playing instead of Kamar Lawrence. Is he as fast? No, he's not. Are you maybe going to have to adjust a little bit because of that? Sure. But adjusting your press, or maybe being a little more choosy in when you press, is completely different than not pressing and doing something that you're not comfortable doing. And that's what happened last night. I'm shocked that they didn't ever really try to press. I'm shocked even more that halftime you didn't see any adjustments. It's baffling to me. And we talked about it on the pre-show on 92.9 The Game with John Michaels and Rick Kamla. That was a question that I had coming into it was, Tata Martino has been in these types of situations, whether it's at a World Cup, whether it's in qualifying, whether it's in a Copa Libertadores, Copa Sudamericana, Champions League in Europe, and we keep going. He's been in these situations where you have to manage 180 minutes. You have to manage a situation where you're coming in against a team that's beat you every time. Okay? Chris Armas hasn't. Chris Armas has been in charge for less than a season. Would that come into play in this series? It did. In leg one, straight away. And now, how do the Red Bulls pick themselves up and do it? And I've seen lots of comments about, well, now they're going to press in the second leg. This is the problem that they've created for themselves. For the Red Bulls to press, the opposition has to say, we're going to build up out of the back, and we don't care that you're going to press us. That's what Atlanta did at Red Bull Arena. And if you go back and watch the way that Atlanta broke the press for the chance for Miguel Almiron in the 10th minute, that is something you have to worry about when you press. If you get beat, you're in trouble. You're exposed. They didn't get punished for it in that game. Their press worked. They made it difficult for Atlanta to create chances, although Atlanta did create more chances than the Red Bulls in that game back in September. So in this one now, Atlanta with a 3-0 lead have zero reason to try to build up attacks out of the back. Zero reason to try to play any passes in the back under any pressure. You can't press if there's nothing to press. So, now what for the Red Bulls? Because they have not created chances from the run of play. They have looked dangerous on set pieces. They have to earn set pieces. It honestly comes down to that for the Red Bulls, because the last time they created more than 8 chances in a match was in San Jose, where they blitzed the Earthquakes early and ended up winning 3-1. Before that, the last time they created more than 8 chances in a game was in the 3-3 draw at D.C. that Bradley Wright Phillips rescued them 3 times to equalize. The last time before that they created more than 8 chances in a game was the 1-1 draw at NYC, where they created 14. That's it. That's it. So, now they've got to score 3 goals and not give up any to go to extra time. If Atlanta scores, they've got to score 5 goals. They haven't done that under Chris Armas. And now they have to play in a different way than what they did in the different way they played in the first leg. That's tough this time of year. It's tough to go against your identity, and that's why it really surprised me to see them play in the way that they did and not make any adjustments at halftime. We'll see what happens on Thursday. Let's take a break. Let's come back. More of your reactions on an Overreaction Monday here on Soccer Down Here. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, November 26th edition. Overreaction Monday, breaking down the 3-0 win for Atlanta United over the New York Red Bulls last night in the Eastern Conference Finals first leg. We were talking in the break about Kamar Lawrence and Connor Lade replacing him, and honestly, you know, I think, and there's no guarantee that Kamar Lawrence is back on Thursday. This is the best 11 left back that the Red Bulls lost, and it will have an effect on the team for sure. I don't think it should cause you to go completely away from your identity. I don't think that worked at all. But Connor Lade in this situation on Thursday where you're playing, you're going to have possession, you're going to have to get forward, you're going to have to create chances. Connor Lade's a good player getting forward. Connor Lade's a good player, period. He's a player that I think would start for quite a few teams in this league. Your worry about Connor Lade getting beat because he doesn't have the speed of Kamar Lawrence, you have to throw that out the window now because you gave that up in this game. That's why you have to think about the 180 minutes here. If you're at halftime in this one, and it's 1-0 Atlanta, and crowd's insane, you don't really seem to have it. What you tried hasn't worked. Atlanta is switching the point of attack side to side way too easily, creating chances. Created, I believe, 6 chances in the first half. The Red Bulls had 1 shot that was blocked out high. They didn't create anything else. At halftime, 1-0 down, you got to look at that and say, you know what? We need to get out of here at this. If we get out of here at this, then we can be okay in the second leg. And again, the Red Bulls aren't a team that could decide at that point to sit back and bunker because they don't know, they don't do it. They don't have that plan B. I think you have to, at that point, go back to your pressing game. And sure, Connor Lade doesn't step up as high as Kamar Lawrence because he doesn't have the pace to recover. But you have to try to escape at 1-0 if you're the Red Bulls at that point and not just continue the same as it was. Because you have to play the full 180 minutes. You have to look at it and say, man, I don't think we're getting anything here today. Unless we get a set piece, and if we get a set piece, hey, great, bonus. But I don't think we're getting anything from the run of play, guys. Let's make sure we don't give anything up. And there just didn't seem to be any adjustments. It was very surprising.
Pete Cox comes out of the blocks and says, can we just add Martinez to the top of the Falcon?
This was back to, I don't think I've seen the completely accurate quote. Joseph Martinez said something about wishing they'd replace the Falcon outside the stadium or expecting them to or wanting them to or hoping to add something to it. I didn't get the full context of the quote. But, yeah, Joseph Martinez keeps doing this. He'll have a statue somewhere.
And Austin, who wanted this to be open line overreaction Monday.
That's dangerous, Austin. And
says,
it's difficult
isn't
with the Skype setup. It's a little difficult to pull that one off, sir.
Yes. It says, isn't it ironic that VAR changed the momentum of the regular season game with the Benz against Red Bulls, and it also did in last night's match? Overreaction.
I don't think it changed the momentum of last night. I really don't. I mean, it changed the outcome because at 1-1, it's a different game than 1-0, obviously. But Red Bulls handled it just fine. You know, I don't think they fell apart after it in any way. So it had much more of an effect on Atlanta in May than it did on the Red Bulls in November, as it should. I mean, you should be a little bit stronger team mentally in November than you are in May. But, yeah, Red Bulls handled it pretty well. I didn't think they handled it as poorly as Atlanta did in May, but I also don't think it was as bad of a call as the one in May was.
Drew Gano says, and I thought Gressel had the right wing back lockdown. Looked like it's Escobar's now. Fun to watch Gressel grow into another position. #overreaction Monday.
Yeah, we talked to Julian on the full-time report a little bit about that, and he talked about how playing as a left-sided central midfielder is a new one for him. That's another position to add to the toolbox for him. And, you know, I mean, they play it differently. Escobar is just... I don't know. The guy is as fast as anybody in this team, and that's including Miguel and Tito. He just looks to be going 100 miles an hour even when he's standing still. He just has that kind of nervous energy about him in some ways, in a good way. He's showing a composure in the attacking end that we didn't really expect from him. And defensively, he's a beast. You know, to me, you know, they always called Yamil Assad the bull of this team. I think it's Franco Escobar now. He plays that way. He is a better defender than Gressel as a right wing back. He's not as good of a crosser as Gressel, but he still gets involved in the attack and can create, as we saw in the assist on the third goal. It's a good problem to have. It's a really good problem to have when you have two guys who could be best in the league in a 3-5-2 as a right wing back and who give you different things, but you can also get them both on the field at the same time in different roles. That's the amazing thing about it, and that's part of the thing is you don't want to pigeonhole players into positions. It's not 1985 in that regard. You're not a right winger and a right winger only. If you're a right-sided player, you need to be able to play right back in a four-man back line, right wing back, right wing. You need to have that flexibility to play different spots on the field, and Gressel and Escobar have both shown that. We also talked to Gressel on Full-Time Report about the effects of the crowd last night and how that went. And if you haven't heard the Full-Time Report, here's a clip from it. Julian Gressel with myself and Mike Conti after the match last night.
Julian, one more for you. You mentioned how important it was to bring the intensity into this match. How much did this crowd help you in that effort tonight?
It's just a lot of fun to play in front of these fans, man. It's really, you know, I can't really describe it. It helps you on the field a lot, you know, when you have a moment where you can look up and you see everybody, you know, waving their flashlights. It's unbelievable. And then at the end, you know, when you've put in so much work and you really get rewarded, obviously, with the result, but then everybody's cheering. It's an incredible feeling, and I'm so thankful, that they create this atmosphere for us, which is just so much fun.
You mentioned the reward at the end. Did you have any idea what was going to happen at kickoff after the lineups brought out the tifo that the fans had?
I've heard something, throughout the last couple of days that everybody should go to their seat early, and then when I walked into the stadium today, I saw kind of those things laid out throughout the whole stadium. So I figured it had to involve the whole 70+ thousand. But it looked amazing, and that's just an extra little push that gives you definitely on the field.
Yeah, it has an effect. Those types of things. It had an effect last night. I don't think Red Bulls were overwhelmed by the crowd, but when you get that push when you need it, whether it's late in the match when the crowd continues to roar and you get that extra little boost in your legs, or at the beginning and you get that extra little motivation, it does matter. It does. It matters in this sport probably more than any other. The effect that the crowd can have on a match. It was a big part of last night. It was a very big part of it. Let's take a break. Come back. More Overreaction Monday after this.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Overreaction Monday here on Soccer Down Here, November 26th edition. Jason Longshore, John Nelson here with you. Jarrett Smith will be back in a bit. Let's get back into the Twitter timeline, John.
Nathan Pugh says, Tata's tactics were perfect. Armas departed from his tactics too much. Armas will correct. So, as at Longshoe said after the match, weather the first 20-minute storm on Thursday and turn the screw.
Yeah, it's surprising the way Armas approached it, but Tata Martino got it right all the way through. Everything was correct yesterday. I mean, you go back to the initial starting lineup. Jeff Florenowitz back in the lineup. I'm sure some people were like, what? Oh, no, what? And then Jeff drops a dime to Joseph Martinez and defends incredibly well, and everything's okay. Substitutions. Joseph Martinez being subbed out. What? Miguel. Tito scores. Barco comes in and plays well. When you can swap out the Golden Boot winner who set a record for most goals in a calendar year in MLS last night, that was another one for Joseph. People forget that Roy Lassiter scored 6 goals in the postseason in 1996. So he had 33 in all MLS competitions in 96. Joseph scored his 34th last night That's another one. Add it to the list. When you can take the Golden Boot record-setting goal scorer out and your most important player out and bring on the first designated player that the club signed in club history, who had double-digit goals and assists last year when healthy, and the guy that you signed for a record transfer fee this season who helped a team win the Copa Sudamericana last year, when that's the replacement late in the second half, it's an embarrassment of riches. But you have to be able to use it effectively. How many times have we seen teams that have a bunch of stars doesn't come off right? I mean, you can think of a lot of Real Madrid teams in the Galacticos era where you had all the talent in the world and it just did not come together. This team, it does. Villalba wants to play, wants to start, not starting right now. He's not sulking. Barco wants to start. He's not sulking. They're coming in. They're making the most of the opportunities they get. When called upon, they get the job done. The whole tactical plan in terms of not trying to invite pressure, to play in the other team's half as quickly as possible. Brilliant tactics from Tata Martino, and Chris Armas really didn't have any answers. I don't think Armas switched. I don't think he changed his tactics early on thinking, oh, we're going to get overrun here, let's sit back deeper, because they didn't sit back deeper. They just didn't press. And I just don't think in the modern world, and especially against a team like Atlanta United, I don't think you can combine playing a high line with no press and make it work with what you had on the field. You just weren't putting Atlanta under much pressure anywhere in the field. It wasn't like you decided, well, we're not going to press all over. We're going to have our line of confrontation be, 20 yards inside the opposition's half or the edge of the 18 or 25. There wasn't one. So you took a team that is known for how they confront the opponent, and they basically didn't. But still kept the high line part of it because they didn't sit back and bunker. So it was just a confusing tactical plan from Chris Armas, and it didn't suit that team. And it wasn't something we had seen from him. That's the biggest thing to me is we've seen what Atlanta United has been building to in this game. You can go back and look at the building blocks to it. What New York did yesterday, when have they played that way? I got nothing. So I don't know why you go away from who you are at this point of the season. Tata Martino continues to add to what Atlanta United is. The Red Bulls had far too big of a departure as to who they are in the biggest game of the season.
Stunner says a fantastic plus coming close behind the great scoreline was the 0 yellow card suspensions for the next game. It was incredible considering nearly half the starting lineup was on the yellow, with the team talking all week about matching Red Bull's intensity.
Yeah, because you did. You were tenacious. You individually won the battles that you had to win, but you didn't get out of control with it. Eric Remedi has been on a yellow card in the playoffs since, the 15th, 20th minute at Yankee Stadium in Leg 1?
Yep.
As a number 6, and the way he plays to not pick up another yellow from then on, that's impressive. Franco Escobar, the way he plays to come into this one, not pick up a yellow, impressive. I mean, it's funny when LGP picks up a yellow and everybody freaks out just expecting him to be on a yellow because LGP is generally on yellow cards, and he wasn't. So no yellow card suspensions due to accumulation. You won't see that for the final. The only way somebody misses the final due to suspension is a red card in the second leg at Red Bull Arena.
Andrew Baker, soccer listening in Germany, with the hashtag Overreaction Monday challenge. One word to describe yesterday. His word, transcendent.
Yeah. Transcendent. That's a good word. It's a good word for it. For me, I guess my one word to describe yesterday would be powerful. Because this win and what it does for you in this series, it changes everything. Just because now, even if Red Bulls wanted to get back to their identity, they can't. They can't just be a pressing team in the second leg. You're not going to create enough chances that way. You can't score. You can. Let me rephrase. You're likely not going to score 4 goals or 5 goals if you give one up from the run of play if you're creating 6, 7, 8 chances. You would have to be incredibly efficient and probably get some penalties out of it and probably score on a couple of set pieces too. You're going to have to open up to create more chances. And when you do that, you're playing in an unfamiliar way, and you're doing it against a team that would love nothing more than to sit, soak that pressure up, and release Miguel Almiron on a dead sprint running at Aaron Long or Tim Parker. And then, the guy who scored 34 goals this season, he's over there too. And, you could probably bring on Tito Villalba when you want to and have him run at people as well. And then there's the guy at right wing back, Franco Escobar, who could be sitting back defending and then make a 70-yard run in the blink of an eye. Yeah. It's not easy. And now you've made it really difficult if you are the Red Bulls to try to find a way through in this series.
Chandler Creelis posted 538's numbers, which have changed after yesterday.
I'm sure.
And yes, Atlanta United making MLS Cup a 94% chance, and winning it is 66, so basically 2 out of every 3. Sporting making MLS Cup is a 2/3 percentage vote. Winning MLS Cup is a 22%. Portland, therefore, would be 33%. Red Bulls at 6% to make MLS Cup. So winning MLS Cup, Atlanta United at 94% to make, 66% to win, according to Nate Silver and his new numbers. And I'm trying to find Kevin from Charlotte says, if Red Bull are able to score 3 goals on Thursday, I have to believe that Atlanta will get at least 1 goal, probably more. Atlanta can play it long and look to strike on counters, and it could play out similar to the last 15 minutes of Sunday's game. #Overreaction Monday.
Yeah, it could. I mean, Atlanta was pretty consistent the way they played throughout, but New York is going to have to expend a lot of energy and early to get back in this. I mean, they really need a goal in the first 15, 20 minutes for that lifeline. And if you get that, you still need 2 more to take it to extra time without conceding. So you've got to be on the front foot with the ball from the opening whistle if you're the Red Bulls. And when you do that against a team that can play this exact same lineup, at a minimum the same style, with Almiron and Martinez up high by themselves, let them combine, just throw it up there. Just play it long, let them go chase it, see what happens. Let New York attack a little bit, hit them on the break. It's going to be really difficult for that combination of events for New York to get goals early, to control possession, but not make any mistakes or not get exposed to the counter. It's a really tough combination. It can happen. You get a goal off, you get an early penalty, you get a corner and score, and New York looked dangerous on corners and free kicks every time last night. You get one of those, it's a different conversation, but it's in Atlanta's hands, and they have to take care of business in the second leg. And New York has to do some things that, frankly, we just haven't really seen them do. Let's take a break. Let's come back. Hour number 2 of Overreaction Monday after this.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. That's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Umpolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here, November 26th. Jason Longshore, John Nelson here with you this morning on an Overreaction Monday. Lots to overreact about or underreact or on par react about. Lots of reaction, period, after a 3-0 Atlanta United win over the New York Red Bulls in the first leg of the Eastern Conference Finals. If you're new to this, what this means for leg number 2 on Thursday night, 7:30-ish kick from Red Bull Arena. If the Red Bulls win 3-0 in regulation in 90 minutes, that means we're going to 30 minutes of extra time. We'd play the full 30, no golden goal, no sudden death, none of that. You play the full 30 minutes and you go from there. Away goals would not matter in the extra time period. That's the only way you go to extra time. That's the only way you could possibly go to penalties, is in that scenario. 3-0 into 90 minutes for New York. If Atlanta scores, they will have the away goal tiebreaker. That means for Red Bulls to win, they will have to win by 4 goals. Because if it is, say, 4-1 at the end of 90 minutes, that would mean it is 4-4 on aggregate. But in the away goal tiebreaker, Atlanta would have 1, New York would have 0. Atlanta would go through at 4-4 aggregate. So that means if Atlanta scores 1, New York has to score 5 to win the series. That's what you're looking at. That's why that last goal from Tito Villalba was so important. That's why last year, 2017, Columbus and New York City series, Harrison Offal scored in stoppage time to make it 4-1 Columbus in the first leg. Second leg, that Harrison Offal goal in stoppage time ended up being the difference. And that's how Columbus ended up winning that series. The Tito goal late was massive for this because is it likely New York's going to get out of there 3-0 and force it to extra time? No, because if you're going to score 3 goals, you're going to have to play more open than New York likes to. And if you concede 1, then you got to have 5. And under Chris Armas, the Red Bulls have not scored 5 goals. They've scored 3 a few times. They 3-0 in the second leg against Columbus. It's a different game, different opponent, different situation coming into it. But they haven't scored 5. They haven't had a whole lot of success in playing on the front foot. And they didn't in that game against Columbus. Let's not think that they came out and played this expansive attacking game. It was 1-0 down coming in. They get a goal in the first 20 to make it 1-1. And then it wasn't until, the last 20 minutes that New York scored twice to put it away. So don't think of that one and say, oh, well, see, they can do it. That's a different game and a different situation coming in. Atlanta can concede 1. Atlanta can concede 2 and still be in the driver's seat of this thing. Because they're going to have some chances going the other way. How often have we seen Atlanta United not have chances to score in a match? I can't think, when I look at what New York's done in the last few games, I look at what New York did in Columbus and had 5 chances. I look at what they did against Philadelphia in the 1-0 win, where they had 34% of the ball and had 6 chances that they created. Even the game against Atlanta back in September, they created 7 chances. They scored twice. That wouldn't be enough. They're going to have the ball. They're going to have to try to make things happen. That's outside their comfort zone. I don't think they get out of here playing the way that they're going to have to play to get the result that they need without conceding a goal. I just don't think that happens unless it is corner kick, penalty, and direct free kick from Kaku, and that's how they get their 3 goals. And that still just sends it to extra time. So, Atlanta has to take care of business, but the Tito Villalba goal late was vital to making this a much more difficult road for the Red Bulls.
Joe Boss says he'll be listening but driving, and then he gives the angry face emoji. So he wanted to get his start in. So much to say, so little space. Hashtag JLore, at Franco Escobar, at Julian Gressel, at Joseph Martinez 17. I was and still am amazed how we just kicked hashtag NYRB ass.
I'm shocked that the Red Bulls were dominated in this way. This was the best defensive team in the league this year. This was a team that, yes, Kamar Lawrence was out, but you still had the defender of the year. You still had the best center back pairing. You still had one of the best goalkeepers in the league. You still had one of the best right backs in the league in Michael Murillo. You had the center midfield pairing of Tyler Adams and Sean Davis that has been outstanding in this league. I'm amazed and shocked at how they were dominated in this match and how they really did not put up much of a fight. That's the part that I'm surprised about. I'm surprised you didn't see a change at halftime. I'm surprised you didn't see just a different way of playing for this team in the second half. No adjustments. You know, at the very end, you bring on Brian White and you go 2 up top at the very end. Beyond that, you really didn't have much of an answer for this. You just made it too easy for Atlanta to do what they wanted to do, and you didn't create anything going the other way. You know, you look at the chances created, the key passes in this match when you dig a little up the numbers. For the Red, 4. Kaku had 1. Derek Etienne had 1. The other 2 were off of set pieces. Aaron Long and Tim Parker heading it back across to create a chance. That's it. 1 shot on goal from Brian White in stoppage time when you were down 2-0 before Tito scored the 3rd. Atlanta United in the postseason in 2018, 3-0. They've conceded 1 goal, and they have allowed 5 shots on goal. That's it. No shots on goal at Yankee Stadium in the first leg of that series. 4 in the second leg when New York had to start chasing it. In this one, 1 shot on goal in the first leg. It's as good as it gets defensively. I'm shocked that it was Atlanta controlling the game from a defensive perspective and not New York. And I'm shocked that New York didn't try to change anything to make more opportunities happen, because 1 shot on goal, 4 key passes in the game, 6 shots total. You're not going to win many series that way.
Tim Russell says, plenty to revel in from last night. How about the increased toughness we've seen in the past 2 matches, right when we've needed it?
Yeah, I've seen this go around a lot. I don't think it's anything about the team not being tough. I think it's just rising to the occasion. The postseason is different. Playoff soccer is completely different than regular season, so it's going to have a different feel, and these guys know that. Felipe Cardenas has talked about the battle-tested experience that these guys have had as individuals. I think their individual backgrounds combined with the adversity that they had to deal with after losing at Red Bull Arena and losing the Supporter Shield on the last day in Toronto, I think that helped them. I think that made it very easy for them to say, look, this is unacceptable. We are not going to get out of the season without throwing everything we have into an MLS Cup campaign. We are not going to leave anything on the table. We're not going to leave anything in the locker room. I don't know if you get this type of play if you don't have those hard times that you have to go through. And Atlanta United came out of it on the other side, a much better team for it. And in the postseason, you're not worried as much about living up to those high standards of beautiful soccer and changing the narrative on how soccer's played in this league and showing that there's a different way and showing that you can attack. And playoffs, there's no ideals other than the trophy at the end. So it's just getting there. How you get there is not as important as just getting there. This team can fight and scratch and claw with the best of them, and they're showing it.
Chandler Creel at Fishing Basket, one of the more interesting Twitter handles I've seen. I worry the team will play not to lose instead of playing to win, and we'll concede a goal then another, leading to a shootout.
It's a big worry. Have we ever seen Atlanta United play not to win? From the jump? Ever? If we have, tell me, because I don't remember it. Against Minnesota, yes, the team bunkered at the end. You were also dealing with 20-degree weather and 10 men for a whole half. You weren't finding more goals in that game. So you protect what you have. That's different. From the jump, have we seen in Atlanta United's history, which now would include 34 games last year, 2 Open Cup, 1 postseason, 34 games this year, 2 Open Cup. I'm trying to count in my head. 3 postseason. I can't think of a time that they came in afraid of losing in a game and playing
76 matches.
If there is one, tell me. I can't think of it. So I don't think they do that here. Are they a little more conservative? Sure. Are they smarter about, okay, we didn't risk anything in terms of trying to play out of the back in leg 1. We're definitely not going to all of a sudden start trying to do that in leg 2 if we're under pressure. That'd be dumb. And you always, with this team, and this is something that we've talked about from day one, you always have a threat with the speed. Always. Even when you're not creating chances from the run of play, even when you're struggling to get your foot on the ball, you always have that threat of just playing it long and watching Miguel Almiron outrun a center back, or Joseph Martinez, or Tito Villalba, or Franco Escobar. You always have that speed option and threat. No team can say, well, Atlanta is not doing anything to scare us at all here today. So I don't think that happens. I think Atlanta is a little more conservative. I think they're a little more prone to playing long. I think they're probably less interested in stringing together 10 passes in a sequence. Doesn't mean they're playing not to win. And because it's just smart. I mean, it's 90 minutes. You have to concede 3 times in 90 minutes without scoring 1 to even go to extra time. You want that time to run. So, yeah, you're going to take your time. Yeah, you're going to be conservative. Sure. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the way you play it. You're not the opposite of coming in very open to try to put the game away early. If you do that and you concede early, you're giving them life. That would be a bad decision. So I think you just play it like you did here. Honestly, I don't think you have to really change anything. That's what's beautiful about the tactics from Sunday. You don't have to do what Red Bull's going to have to do and completely change your identity and how you play at this stage. You dial up the same game plan. You play it in the exact same way. You take what the game gives you going the other way, and you make sure that you don't risk anything. It's that simple.
Chris Hutchison says, for 3 games in a row now, 5 Stripes have shown focus, intensity, poise, determination, and maturity. They've done this while changing their style of play to successfully counter their opponent's preferred style of play. Resistance is futile.
Yeah, I think what Atlanta's been able to do and what Tata Martino's been able to do is approach the way this team plays in a different way. I think what we've seen in the past in MLS is fairly vanilla tactical plans, fairly vanilla reactions and changes, and not a lot of diversity in tactics. I think you see a team that works extremely hard. You see a team that covers all the bases in terms of how it prepares for a match. Because we've seen Atlanta play in different formations, different people in different places, different levels of intensity in terms of a press, in terms of how they're creating their chances, how many numbers they're getting forward, where they're trying to create their chances from. We've seen lots of variation with Atlanta United. That's how the best teams in the world play. Because if you have one way of playing and that's it, you're going to come up against a team that can beat you doing what you do. It's going to happen. If you have different ways to adjust, it's a lot harder to be beaten. And that's what Atlanta's done. The Red Bulls, the one way to play and that's it, plan A or bust, press or bust. When you don't press, you're kind of stuck. When your press is beaten, you're kind of stuck. Atlanta can sit and play on the counter, can play on the front foot, can press, can not press, can play 4-2-3-1, can play 3-5-2. 3-5-2 can look like 5-3-2 when it needs to. That flexibility is why Atlanta is where they are. And it's why they're well positioned to move on to MLS Cup for the first time in club history. Let's take a break. More Overreaction Monday. Use the hashtag, tweet at us at SoccerDownHere. More reactions after this.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, November 26th. Overreaction Monday here on the show, reacting to last night's 3-0 win over the Red Bulls. John, what else is on the Twitters?
Well, James McClatchy missed the match and wants to know where he can find a replay.
Watch ESPN. It would be, you don't have to have ESPN Plus, although if you don't have ESPN Plus, you're doing it wrong because it's pretty sweet. But
yes,
you don't have to have ESPN Plus to watch this. As long as you have a cable subscription and have access to watch ESPN, it will be archived there, I think, for a week.
Yeah, I think it is a week. And a couple of people have kind of poked their head in the door on this one, and Nick Hinckley was the most recent to ask if we've talked about the Bobby Boswell thread yet.
Yeah, Bobby Boswell had an interesting thread last night that made the rounds for a lot of different reasons. I thought it was intriguing to see the reaction to this. I'm going to pull the thread up in its entirety so we can talk about it. He went into just how detailed Atlanta United's preparation is. And he started with, for those of you that are shocked that New York Red Bulls struggled to start any of their possession in Atlanta's half today, this thread is for you. He talked about coming to Atlanta. He talked about training for 24 days straight. Every one of those days included some type of fitness. Every time that we trained with the full squad, we worked on playing out of the back every single day. And he talked about the Players Association filing grievances against the team for not giving enough time off. And, of course, that's made the rounds, and people are talking about that, which we'll get into that part in a second. I want to talk about the preparation first, and we'll touch on the other part in a second. Boswell said, I trained at left center back, right center back, and sometimes as the lone center back. I stayed and watched film many days with the staff to try to get up to speed. In the 3 months of doing this, I felt I was playing as well as I ever had. I wasn't even dressing for games. When push came to shove, Tata didn't feel I understood what they wanted out of me. He said he also didn't want to put me in a position to fail out on the field, and that's something that Felipe Cardenas echoed as well from other conversations. Tata really does try to protect his players and make sure that they're put into positions to succeed. Think of that when people yell hashtag play the kids, and just play the kids and damn the torpedoes and don't worry about it. Boswell said, I cannot speak for all other MLS teams, but it was a ridiculous amount of exercise in possession out of the back in Atlanta. The concept of moving into space that is not occupied is taught daily. I had never seen anything like it in my career. And this was a guy who played a lot of years in this league. When you attempt to press them high up the field, you are doing it against a team who has worked on that to the point of exhaustion. Atlanta is not unbeatable. They make mistakes like all teams do. But possession out of the back is their bread and butter. Their pan y mantequilla. It is because of this that I am shocked they didn't win the Supporters' Shield, and I will be shocked if they don't win MLS Cup. Even though I didn't get the opportunity that I wanted, I was grateful they brought me in when DCU didn't want me. For that reason, I hope they win this thing. The amount of preparation is why Atlanta United went to Red Bull Arena and played the way they did. And as I said, I think for a week, if Miguel Almiron scores in the 10th minute, we're having a completely different conversation about Atlanta and the Red Bulls, period. You created a chance early. That chance was stopped by Luis Robles, one of the best goalkeepers in the league. You didn't create a whole lot of other chances. You had an awful penalty decision go against you that was then overturned by VAR. You had another goal that was called back for being offside, which was both correct. And then you had a handball in the box on a set piece, a very well-worked set piece. And you gave up a penalty and you gave up a goal. That was your first half. That's not domination. Second half, you controlled the first part of the second half. You had chances. You didn't really create any big, clear-cut chances in the first part of the second half at Red Bull Arena, and then you give up one after another corner kick where you get caught flat-footed on the backwash of New York recycling the possession, and you're down 2-0. Brandon Vasquez had a 1v1 with Luis Robles late. You get it to 2-1 there, you never know what can happen. Not domination by any stretch. This preparation that Bobby Boswell talks about is why Atlanta United went there and said, you know what, we're going to play our game. Now, I also give Tata Martino a ton of credit because what he's done, he is not thrown out being able to do this. He's not thrown. It's not like the team forgets it. Like Boswell said, they've worked on this. It's bread and butter. They can go to playing out of the back if it is the right situation and the opposition allows them to. They can do that anytime they want. Sometimes that's not the right way. Sometimes that's not the best way to approach a match. Sometimes it invites too much risk. How much has Tata Martino talked about in 2018 about limiting risk? That's what they've done on the road. You approach the postseason in that kind of way. You want to limit risk. 5 shots on goal is all you've allowed. Some of that is down to how you've used the ball. It's not just in a vacuum. That's the thing about this game. It's not just that, okay, they're great in possession, so Yeah, well, defense is just over here, a completely separate unit. No. They're great in possession because the defenders are part of it, and that possession and the way they move the ball and what they do to the opposition makes it harder for them to create chances. It all goes together. Now, the other side that I've seen some people seize on and want to yell about and jump up and down and point fingers about is the grievance filed by the MLS Players Association about not giving enough time off. If that's what we're going to point on and that's what we're going to complain about is that Atlanta United is practicing too much. Really? Really? Now we're going to limit how much you practice? If you are complaining about that, do not ever say anything about American player development and complain about why MLS teams are not developing players. Do not ever have that come out of your mouth if you're complaining about Atlanta United practicing too much, because you can't. You cannot justify complaining about, oh, there were grievances and Atlanta United's overworking these poor guys. You think they don't want to work? You think they don't want to be the best team in the league? You think anybody was saying, well, I don't have to practice here. I shouldn't be practicing right now. You think anybody was doing that, really? Do you? You can't get better without training. You're not going full junction boys here. You're working on how to play the game. You're working on how to be one of the best teams in MLS history. You're working on possession. You're working on how to deal with situations where it's 3 in the back. You're working with a guy like Bobby Boswell, a veteran in this league who has been in MLS Cups, who has done everything you can do in Major League Soccer. And you're working him like he is a 16-year-old learning the game for the first time. Because that's the way you play. He's learning how to play the game in a different way. He's being worked in a way from a soccer player perspective, not a running laps perspective. He's learning how to play the game. How many times have guys said that? That they're learning how to play the game differently under Tata Martino. Veterans like Boswell, Parkhurst, Lorenowitz have said that. If you want to start complaining about how much time is being spent practicing and you want to say that, well, that's not right, do not ever say a word about American player development. Don't do it. This is not a filing a grievance about, man, they had me running too much, or they were putting me in the gym too much. It's unfair physical exhaustion. It's trying to be the best soccer team you can be. It's kind of a joke, in my opinion, that you're having this situation. Because the good managers, and this is something I hope youth coaches consider, the best managers in the world are not having their guys out there for 3-hour sessions, for 4-hour sessions, for these to the point of exhaustion type of sessions. That's not how you get better as a soccer player. You get better by training for an hour and 15 minutes, maybe 90 minutes in an intense way. That's how you get better. It's not from a 2-hour, a 3-hour session. You're making things worse at that point. You get players tired. They start making bad mistakes. That becomes a habit. That's not what you're doing here. They didn't give enough days off because you're trying to get better as a team. That's what is being said here. That's not even completely confirmed. Not saying that Boswell's lying here, but this is something that a former player said when he's talking about a positive thing about Atlanta United. To try to take that and be negative and try to take that and find out something that's just wrong, that's terrible, that's awful. 1, every team's finding ways to train as much as possible. 2, that's not a bad thing. But if you're going to seize on that because of whatever your agenda is, and then you're going to say in tomorrow, well, why isn't this player getting better? Go back and compare your tweets, because that's ridiculous. You have to work to get better. So I thought it was really interesting the way Boswell broke it down and talked about how much he worked and how, he felt like he was at a point and the team didn't. And it's not anybody was awful about it. I mean, he's not sour grapes. He said he wants the team to win the thing. And he's said all kinds of great things about Tata Martino all year long. So, I don't know. The reaction was very funny to this. I thought it was fascinating the way he broke it down and how hard they worked on this. Other people took it in a completely different direction. I just laugh at that, to be honest. Let's take a break. Let's come back with more Overreaction Monday talk after this.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski and Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here. November 26th, Overreaction Monday. Atlanta United 3-0 lead going into the second leg of the Eastern Conference Finals at Red Bull Arena on Thursday. We're taking your reactions on Twitter all morning. John, I think we have another one.
Yeah, we got a couple here. One's a quickie from Daniel Grammy. Wanted to know if there was any news on Greg Garza. We saw how much missing an MLS All-Star caliber left back had on the right backs.
On the Red Bulls.
Yeah, on the Red Bulls, yes. Left back, right back, Red Bulls, them. Yes, Garza. Any news?
No update. It looked like might have been a calf, could have been a hamstring. It happened on a long ball after Garza carried it forward about 15, 20 yards. Miguel Almiron made a run. Immediately after it, Garza was hobbling a little bit, pulled something, and McCann was brought in as soon as possible. So not sure. Either way, I don't think it's a bad thing if McCann starts because it's a different type of game on Thursday. You wouldn't mind having him in there for set pieces because that is the main threat that the Red Bulls provide at this point. So we'll see how Garza responds. It didn't look major. He did play for maybe another 5-6 minutes or so as McCann was getting ready, but he was a little limited. Just looked like he pulled something when he played that. It was a little odd to see it.
And then Jay Riddle wanted to give a shout-out to the supporters groups for everything they did to lay everything out.
Yeah, this has been another funny thing when you look at the perception around the nation about it. I thought it was strange that on the ESPN broadcast, they come back from break with a really cool visual, like walking out of one of the corridors to the stadium with the tifo displayed. Really cool video, really cool visual. Nothing really said about it. And then in the MLS email that goes out, if you're signed up to their email list, the daily kickoff, very quick discussion about the results from the first two games. Then in your noteworthy bullet section,
First one is about the Red Bulls' disappointing evening in Atlanta from our friend Charlie Boehm. The quote is, "When you're a risk-taking team by nature, playing it safe is the biggest risk of all." Second bullet point was, check out last night's TIFO from Timbers Army, a 2015 MLS Cup run callback. Third bullet point is about CONMEBOL wanting to see a World Cup every 2 years. Fourth bullet point is Giuseppe Rossi maybe playing, saying it would be amazing to play for either the Red Bulls or New York City since he's from New Jersey. And the fifth bullet point is Cyber Monday deals on MLSstore.com. Nothing about the Atlanta United full stadium, 70,000 people involved in an amazing display. And I've seen people try to denigrate it and say that the club did it and all these different things. Jay Riddle says, shout out to the supporters groups and their 100-plus volunteers who spent several hours setting up the TIFO, not including the hours spent designing it and cutting the materials, etc. The cost and time to pull a stadium-wide stunt off is crazy. This wasn't done by the Atlanta United front office. Please, soccer fans, do not be that type of fan. Do not pull a dictionary description of what TIFO means to try to say that this wasn't cool. Do not try to find a reason to say that, well, there's no way they could have done that. But they did. But no, they can't. But they did. Was it amazing? Yes. If you're trying to find a reason to either, one, not talk about it, or two, try to say, well, that's not really what a TIFO is, or they couldn't have done that on their own. Just stop. Just stop. There's this crazy perception around the league, nationally in the American soccer universe, that this is a bad thing to watch 70,000 people go nuts. That it's, let's take it for granted that it's 70,000 people at the playoff game in Atlanta. Let's say that the Portland crowd was better. Let's say that Atlanta doesn't know how to be proper fans. All these nonsense takes. It's tiring. I hate talking about it because it just gives it life. I hate that it's a thing. When 10 years ago in this league, Seattle hadn't happened yet. Portland hadn't happened yet. Vancouver hadn't happened yet. Toronto was an awful team but had great fan support. And you were wondering what this league was going to be. 10 years later, you have a team that is drawing fans at a level we've never seen before in this league. You have a fan base doing things that we have never seen before in this league. You have a team that has not completed its second year of playing and is doing things on the field that we haven't seen in this league. That should be celebrated. That should not be trashed. That should not be diminished. That should not be overlooked. That should not be left out. That should be celebrated. Doesn't mean you celebrate it at the expense of everything else. Not at all. Not at all. What Portland does is amazing, and it's not a better or worse situation. But when you're trying to say that the 70,000 plus and the hundreds of hours it takes to design that stunt and pull it off and prepare for it and load everything in, and you're trying to say that, oh, well, that's not that big of a deal. Come on. Come on. This is something that people would have cried to get in Major League Soccer 10 years ago. This is something that I never thought I would see in the United States for a club in the United States. This looked like something that you would see from South America, from Europe. I didn't know if it would ever happen here. And it did, and instead of celebrating it, it's not talked about, it's left off, and when it is talked about, they're trying to diminish it. So what I can tell you guys who are based here in the Atlanta area and in the South, don't let that stuff discourage you. Don't get into Twitter wars. Just look at the sources, look at where it's coming from, and realize that it's not about them for the way this team is built, for the way this team functions, for what this team is trying to do, for what this team accomplishes. It's not about the league, the country, the rest of it. It's about here. It's about this. And that's what's important. So don't let other people who are not here and trying to find a reason to diminish what is happening in Atlanta. Don't let it diminish it. Because people around the world don't think that way. That's why everybody's talking about Atlanta United around the world. Don't think it's a bad thing that you have more media here. Don't think it's a bad thing that the local paper actually sends a beat writer to a playoff match, unlike papers in New York. And that's not okay. There's no excuse for that. That's a joke. And it does have an effect on the attendance at Red Bull Arena. It does affect it. It does have an effect at Yankee Stadium because the media chooses not to cover it. Those teams don't draw poorly. Those teams should be covered. It's amazing that you don't have a beat writer covering the team in a playoff match. I'll be very curious to see who all is in Atlanta or is in Red Bull Arena covering the match from an Atlanta perspective. We know Doug Robertson will be there. Could be more. Didn't happen this way. So, again, what's happening here is special. What's happening here is unique in this country. What's happening here is a brand new thing. Don't let anybody tell you that it's not pure, it's not genuine, it's not what we know it is. Don't let anybody diminish it in your eyes because it's amazing that that would even be a possible take on it. It's crazy to me that would be where you're going to go in some of this stuff. ATL UTD fan number 1. I was on Cloud 9 last night. What a hell of a performance. No overreaction from me. We'll close this out with a 2-1 win on Thursday. I do think Atlanta scores on Thursday, and that means New York has to score 5. It's possible. It's not likely, but it's possible. It's not over till the final whistle on Thursday. That's the important thing here. Andrew Baker asks, everyone keeps talking about how important Lawrence was to the New York Red Bulls pressing system, and it's why they changed their approach. Agree with the stake. They changed their approach for some reason, and that's the obvious one. If that wasn't the reason, then I have no explanation for why they would even possibly change their approach, other than just being scared and not wanting to have your press broken at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. What happened to nearly put Atlanta up 2-0 in the first time these two teams played at Mercedes-Benz. I think the Kamar Lawrence thing had something to do with it. What's surprising to me, though, is just that you didn't see after 45 minutes that it wasn't working, and you needed to do something different. That's what's crazy to me. Connor Lade is not Kamar Lawrence, but he's not a player that is completely out of his depth here. I just think going away from your identity at this stage is a risky proposition. And trying to play in between, because you still kept the high line, you played, two banks of 4, but up high. It just didn't work. And it didn't look like it was something that had been very well prepared. And that's maybe the more shocking thing about it, is if you made the decision to do this, yeah, the international break makes it difficult to enact like crazy tactical changes. But if that's the case, then don't do it. Then don't make those crazy tactical changes. So I don't know. The Kamar Lawrence absence did have an effect for sure. Is it why they decided not to press? I don't know. Chris Armas would have to answer that. If it wasn't, then I'm even more surprised because I don't really have an explanation. Gustavo Rodriguez from Buenos Aires says, we 17s ask Tata not to give away so much with these teams. We are more defensive to be more offensive. Very good point. Our counter strategy was effective, even though we missed some chances in counters. Escobar was the speed racer needed to make this clear. The Escobar and the effect he has on this team playing as the right wing back is similar to Kamar Lawrence in that he is able to cover enough ground to counter, to create chances. I mean, there was one where he takes a touch at midfield and leaves Connor Lade for dead. He wouldn't have done that to Kamar Lawrence. Kamar Lawrence does the same thing the other way for the Red Bulls. but he's also able to defend. And Kamar Lawrence is able to make those runs forward but get back and defend. Franco Escobar is able to do that for Atlanta. Greg Garza has to be a little more tactical in when he goes and when he sits, because he doesn't have that same range that Escobar does. Escobar's just a freak of an athlete at this point. James McClatchy says, Tata's decisions were amazing. When I saw play begin with Gressel in the middle and Escobar in the right wing, I thought that was a mistake. Boy, was I wrong. Then the Villalba substitution, he played like a man possessed. I won't second-guess Tata again. Yeah, I thought if you were going to create more chances from the run of play, you needed Gressel out wide and Escobar as a center back. I didn't know if Jeff Larinowitz would come back in and play the way he did. He did. Larinowitz was awesome, and that's what made that possible, because then you get the range of Escobar, who covers more ground than Gressel. But Gressel in the middle played his best game in the middle to me. And a lot of it was down to his defensive work. But the run on the Miguel Almiron dribble where Gressel goes in, makes the run around the outside back, Almiron slips it into him, perfectly weighted, and Gressel gets his head up and doesn't just blast across. He puts a pass back across as he sees the Red Bulls defenders crashing to their own goal, and Escobar gets on the end of it. It's those types of plays from Gressel in the middle when he gets forward that we weren't seeing as much of before. So he's really starting to embrace another new position, another spot where he can have an impact on the match, and making himself even more valuable. So I thought it worked really, really well. It was not, as we talked about coming in, Gressel playing a 10 with Nagbe and Remedi sitting behind him. It was much more of a true, line of three center backs, your wing backs who are going to go up and down the wings, and then a line of three central midfielders. There's like two lines of three with wing backs who were jumping into either line, because Gressel was on the left side of Remedi, Nagbe was on the right, and that's how they played it. That's how they split the field up. And it worked. It was very, very effective. One more before we go to our final break. Andrew Baker again. Was I the only one who noticed how relieved and emotional Tito was during the celebration of the third goal? Did I miss something going on there in the background? No. I mean, what it was he had a chance to put the series away a few minutes before, and he missed it. That's all it was to me. I saw his reaction after missing that goal, putting it off the post. It looked like he looked up at the Halo board as they were showing the replay and screamed his head off. He wanted another chance. He wanted another look, and he got it, and he finished it, and that was huge. And that's why I think there was such a release and relief from him. That was very, very important. Let's take a final break. Final call for overreactions on the Twitters. Send them our way at Soccer Down here. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Ompolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Final segment, Soccer Down here, November 26th edition of the show. Overreaction Monday after Atlanta United defeats the New York Red Bulls 3-0 in the first leg of the Eastern Conference Finals at Mercedes-Benz Stadium last night. Game 2, Red Bull Arena, Thursday, 7:30-ish kickoff. FS1 has the broadcast on TV. We'll be live from Red Bull Arena at 7 o'clock for the Five Stripes Countdown on 92.9 The Game. And then we'll have a full-time report and more post-game coverage after we're done, because we will have to jump on a plane to get back to the ATL after the game. So we will have lots of coverage for you afterwards. Don't worry about that. And, it's every game keeps getting bigger. Everyone has more meaning. Everyone is the biggest game that the club has played in. It's kind of a cool time, and it's something that we'll all look back on 10, 15, 20 years down the road as, wow, remember 2018? Remember that MLS Cup run? Remember that playoff run? That's where we'll be in a few years, where we're all having a beer in the Gulch or at the Home Depot backyard, or maybe a beer in one place, a beer in the other. Depending on what happens to the Gulch, it'll be interesting. Artist formerly known as TLC. Having seen the replay, I don't think calling off that goal was right, but it's karma for the VAR goal taken away earlier this year and the soft PK given 3 minutes later, so I don't feel bad. Because if those calls hadn't been made, we'd have won Supporter Shield. I disagree, because he's offside. He is standing in front of Brad Gazan, blocking the view of the ball. That's interference in every description. Like, somebody posted it, there is a textbook of what is interference, what is offside, like one of the referee instruction manuals where it's literally this scenario is in the textbook. So you have to make that call. This is where that clear and obvious language is dubious, because from the side, from where I was watching the game, no, it was not clear and obvious at all, because I couldn't see where Alex Muil was in relation to Brad Gazan. I'm on the side. I can't see that he's right in the way. I didn't see it absolutely clearly until you saw that behind the goal shot. And this is also important. And Kevin Egan had a tweet about this. I'm trying to find it right now. With Andrew Wiebe at MLSsoccer.com. It was different than what usually was available for matches at Mercedes-Benz. And I am looking for it, and I'm not seeing it. He was talking about the camera angle behind that goal not being something that they had with the Fox Sports South broadcast. He hadn't seen that before. So that had a big hand in it. And when I saw that angle, then you have to make the call. And that's why I do agree with the call. But we can argue about clear and obvious error all day. That one, with that camera angle that none of us who were on the side of the field could have seen live, with that camera angle, it's clear and obvious. Without it, no, it's not clear and obvious. But that's what the VAR is supposed to be able to do, is to have these angles and chime in if they feel like it's a clear and obvious error. That meets the description, although it's a little different. And that's why I just want everything to be cleaned up in terms of when you go to VAR, how VAR works, how it's communicated is the most important thing. Because had a tweet just a little bit ago. Somebody who listens to our broadcast on 92.9 The Game chimed in. Boke Moore said, have gone to 10 games this year, including both playoff matches, but new to soccer. Why don't they mic the refs like the NFL? Had no idea why the goal was overturned at the game until I got in the car and listened to the postgame show. That shouldn't happen. That's inexcusable. Because you're creating problems for, if you're a New York Red Bulls fan in the crowd, you're angry. You're ticked off. You should be, because you don't know why that was called back, because you might not have that angle. You don't have that angle unless you're behind the goal. And then you still have to be able to time it and see everything. It's a little ridiculous, and it's something the league has to get better at in terms of communication. John, are you back with us?
I am back with you.
You sound like a robot as you come in very hot.
Uh-oh. You can't have that.
No, you don't want that.
So I'll try to talk away from the microphone.
That's a little better. There we go. Jim Lepp said Atlanta United played as well as I can recall. Not having Lawrence was an impact for Red Bulls. I couldn't reconcile Armas's tactics. Was it as simple as he overthought the idea of breaking tendencies? Clearly, they will have a different approach on Thursday. I don't know. We were looking for some post-match audio from Chris Armas, and I don't think there was any from last night.
We have quotes. We don't have audio.
We have quotes. What quotes did Chris Armas say after the match? Do we have that?
Yes, we do. Quote, "Look, it is going to be difficult. It always was going to be. We put ourselves in a hole, but we came out of a series where we scored 3 in our building. That is the goal. That's the starting point. We will score the first goal, and the rest will follow. We will come out a little bit differently with the energy and the fight that is going to be needed. It is pretty what is needed to be done. We're going to go home, and we're going to get it done." And he also said it'll be essential that the leaders step up, that we step up, the coaching staff, the rookies step up. It's going to be an effort that takes everyone, and I really believe that is going to come. We were down 3-0 at home against Columbus earlier in the year, and with 5 more minutes, we would have tied that thing up, but we only had 45 minutes, and we did it. With 90 minutes, we're going to go after it, 1 goal at a time.
They're not going to lay down. We know that. I think Chris Armas is trying to rally the troops and trying to get a reaction out of his group. That third goal is going to be the backbreaker here. And that's the one that is either going to force the Red Bulls to pull off an epic performance for the ages, or it's going to make it too much. The Columbus situation, yeah, you gave up 3 goals in the first half. You were down 3-0. You cut it back to 3-2. That's a different comparison altogether. You're going to have to open up. You're going to have to play differently. You know, they will have a different approach on Thursday for sure, as Jim Lepp said. But it'll be a different approach from how they have started a match probably ever this season because of what they're going to have to do in the attack. They're going to have to go for it. They're going to have to try to create more from the run of play. They can't just rely on looking for set pieces. They're going to need more than that. Let's see. What else do we have here? Jay Riddle, as I had hoped, Gressel was put in midfield to disrupt and win second chances with his physicality, still putting him in positions to create chances with his sharp passing ability. Loved his performance. I thought it was his best performance in the middle. I absolutely did. I would have, coming in, I would have rather seen him out wide and seen Escobar as a center back, but Jeff Larinowitz coming back gave you this opportunity, and Escobar rose to the occasion, Gressel rose to the occasion, and Larinowitz rose to the occasion. All 3 of those guys made it work and played very, very well. Gressel, early on, I thought kind of struggled with his touch, struggled to create. As the game went on, he grew into it. And defensively, and also in 50-50 situations where he's winning the second ball, where he's winning a tackle, he was very good. He was very good throughout. That was key. You have to do that, and when you get your chances to create something, you have to take them. And he did. And he was excellent in this match. The run off the ball to create the second goal was critical, absolutely critical. Katie Weaver says, talk about Tito's almost goal, then actual goal, and his reaction. Any comments from him post-game? He's the best super sub. Apologies to Alan Gordon. I don't think Tito's going to be a super sub for long. But that whole situation, the first one, it kind of reminded me of the Montreal game last year where it's like he takes off on a run and defenders get a touch, but he just keeps going. The ball seems to stay close to him and stay connected, even surprising him a little bit. He didn't have much of an angle, but, man, you see that. You see him break through the 2 defenders, and it's like, okay, this is it. Game over. Ball game. This is great. And he puts it off the post. It's like, oh, no. Because that gives the opposition a little bit of life. It does.
Yeah, the press box when Tito hit the post, it was like this collective. It was almost a collective gasp. Oh my God, kind of a moment that he worked his way through the 2 guys on his own, bunny hopped between them to keep possession. All of the individual effort that was there to get the shot that hit the post and careened back out.
Shiva says, remember the score in September was almost 3-0, except Brad saved a penalty. It was almost 3-2, except Luis Robles made 2 big saves in the box in the 18. It's a different game. If New York gets 2 penalties and scores on a set piece, yeah, they can get 3 goals. But how many times do you get 2 penalties? How many times do you actually get 3 before VAR takes one away on an awful call? Let's go back to that. It's not a strategy you can really ride very far when that's how you're creating your chances. And that's what I go back to. That's the most important thing here is last 5 games. Trying to remember the chance created number off the top of my head in this one. Last night, the Red Bulls created 4 chances. Against Columbus, last time, second leg where they won 3-0, they created 8 chances. First leg against Columbus, they created 5 chances. Regular season finale against Orlando created 7 chances. That's it. You only created 7. Against Philadelphia, 1-0 win, as the Orlando game was, you created 6 chances. They're going to have to create more chances than that. And they're going to have to create more chances from the run of play. Because you're not going to get set pieces out of thin air. You're not going to get corners out of thin air. You're going to have to create more chances. That's going to open you up, and it's going to change the way the game's played a little bit. So that's what's going to make things difficult. And that's why it's hard to compare September and the situation to this one because of the almosts and maybes and saves and penalties and weirdness that happened there. We'll go a little bit deeper into stoppage time. If you didn't see Billboard magazine, which is a massive, big-time, important music magazine, had a feature about Big Boy having fun at the Atlanta United match. That's crazy. That's just crazy that Billboard is covering Big Boy's timeout at the Atlanta United match. That was a very good Golden Spike person to select here. That was a good choice. And Waka Flocka was there, too. He was hanging out with Carlton the Alien. That was kind of cool. Good to see those pictures. Tony Jabroni.
Well, yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
That was great. No, it's just that whole thing of Big Boy and Waka Flocka. And I'm trying to think of who's missing other than Ric Flair. Who are we missing for these celebrations?
For people you would expect at these things, no. I mean, you've pretty much hit Atlanta royalty. There's nobody else. I mean, if Andre 3000 wants to show up, cool, but I don't think he's a big sports guy. He doesn't come out to these things a lot when the Falcons have had big moments. So everybody else has made an appearance. We haven't had T.I. on the Golden Spike, which is something I'd like to see. We've had T.I. on the capo stand in front of the supporter section. I've seen those pictures before. There's really not anybody else. That's what's crazy about it. Tony Jabroni, the true overreaction Monday comes from Argentina. What ridiculousness. Glad that the Copa Libertadores final was rescheduled for when both teams will be fully healthy. We don't know when it's rescheduled for, and we don't know if people will be fully healthy because it's quite the conundrum for CONMEBOL and the 2 teams and FIFA because you have the FIFA Club World Cup in less than 3 weeks. The Copa Libertadores winner will be playing in that. It's in Dubai. Not exactly somewhere you're just going to go, with 1 day's notice. So you got to get this game played really soon. I don't know if you can play it at El Monumental after everything that's happened. Are you going to play it in a different CONMEBOL country, which that'd probably be the one that makes the most sense? But then River Plate fans are going to howl because they didn't get their second leg and Boca Juniors gets an unfair advantage. Then Boca fans will howl because when River Plate players were hit with pepper spray coming out of the tunnel, and for the second half of a match in 2015, Boca Juniors was kicked out of the tournament. Game was abandoned. They were kicked out of the tournament. River Plate has not had that type of punishment for what happened outside the stadium here, which is a different scenario. You've got all kinds of behind-the-scenes politics with Barra Bravas and with politicians in the city of Buenos Aires and the country. You have the G20 summit coming up this weekend. You're not going to have the police force, the security forces to be able to have the second leg of the Copa Libertadores final and the G20 summit in Buenos Aires over the weekend. It's a mess of epic proportions, and you've got to figure it out rapido. You don't have time to waste on this.
Well, did you see host of Soccer Over There, Nick Khalifi, has put out a report that the nation of Italy might come to the rescue?
There's reports about it being in every country on the planet at this point. I'm not believing anything till I see
Let's host it at the Benz.
tickets sold. Sure. That's fine. I'll take that. I'll show up. Don't know if they'd want to play on turf, though. That would be a little different for them. They don't play on turf very often. I don't think there's any any turf fields in Argentina that first division teams play on. I'm sure there's turf fields in Argentina. Rachel Affleck, you are wrong on calling the goal off, talking to Tofka TLC. You're wrong on calling the goal off replay. Clearly shows Gazan trying to look around the Red Bull player. He was definitely offside and affecting the play. 100% correct call. I think he makes the save, if not for the screen. And that's the part we don't know. I thought he reacted late. That was what I thought watching it live. I didn't know why he reacted late. Then you see that angle, and you could see why he would have reacted late. So you have to make the call. Five Strike Daily, can we talk about being able to bring Barco and Tito off the bench? Two players that would be automatic starters on every other team in the league. It's nice. It's a nice problem to have. You look at the substitutions last night. I mean, it's Atlanta United turns to its first designated player in club history who had double-digit goals and assists last year, and the $15 million man who just won Copa Sudamericana last year. And the Red Bulls turn to their first-round draft pick from Duke University, and Mark Shatkovsky, who's a good player, not a great player, and Derek Etienne, who's breaking into the Haitian national team. There's a difference in quality in those substitutions. It's a fact. It's not the only reason why Atlanta United won. Guys like Eric Remedi and Franco Escobar are players that any team in this league could have signed and paid and put them in lineups. They're two players that Atlanta United chose, and it's not just because of Tata Martino. It's because of the scouting department. It's because they fit the system. It's because the deal got done, and it's because they have earned these positions. And Escobar and Remedi have been as important as anybody on the field in the postseason. Joe McCurdy, what I'm trying not to take for granted for the past three matches, the next one and hopefully the one after that, it's been the most important match in the history of the franchise. Not many clubs can say that. It's absolutely it. Absolutely it. Old Swarthy. Honestly, the stage looked too big for the Red Bulls last night. Doubt some of them have played in front of a crowd like that before. Maybe. I mean, the ones who played here back in May played in front of part of that crowd, but not all of it. And, yeah, I don't know. It is different. I don't think it looked too big for the players in just the general sense. I think the stage and the occasion looked too big for Chris Armas and the tactics. Like, it really felt managing from more of a scared position than trying to control the match. And I feel like the Red Bulls thrive on controlling the match with their press, and they went away from that and didn't really try to control the match in any other way. I really don't understand the decision going into this to play it the way they did, and I don't think anyone expected the Red Bulls to come out in the tactical setup that they did.
And that was, to me, you had your defensive setup that we're used to seeing, and there didn't seem to be any pressing, at least, from my perspective. It was, and we were talking about this earlier, when we were in commercial, but yeah, for me, it was just like, yeah, okay, we're going to have a defensive stance, but there didn't seem to be any pursuit. And I guess that was probably the biggest thing that I saw.
John Nason defines, he says, clear and obvious error, in quotes, was made. Not the offside was clear and obvious. That's where just the description, it's ambiguous. I would probably strike the clear and obvious error part of what goes to VAR. I think it brings more confusion and drama in when it doesn't need to. VAR is going to check stuff. We know that. And if they see something where a mistake was made, whether the referee made the mistake and should have called it differently from what he saw, or he could not have seen the way something played out, as we saw last night, VAR gets involved. Period. Just take the clear and obvious error out, because it does make it more confusing and leads to more interpretation issues. Joe Boss said, what allowed Atlanta United to tweak our style is the quality of players, Darren Eales, Carlos Bocanegra. We can't take for granted the vision of Arthur Blank as well. Huge round of applause. Yeah, when you have the talent, you can turn to different players to get the job done in these different situations. Absolutely. It has a factor in it. And when you can mix and match and bring a guy like Jeff Larentowicz back with his veteran experience after injury, you can bring Greg Garza in, but get enough out of Chris McCann in the season to finish with 69 points. When you can bring Tito Villalba off the bench as he's getting back to full fitness, when you can play Miguel Almiron as a second forward because you have the depth in midfield behind him to make it work, all those things factor in. And the way this roster has been built, from Arthur Blank cutting the checks to Darren Eales and Carlos Bocanegra and Lucy Rushton and everybody else on the scouting department, it all is part of it. It is a collective effort, and that's what's so impressive about Atlanta United's build. Chewy says, need soccer hater Ludacris for the Golden Spike. I didn't know he was a soccer hater. He was involved in like the very, very beginning when Atlanta United introduced the logo. He was, I believe, at Compound that night. I might be wrong. I think he was. I know he did some stuff with Atlanta United logoed gear like right after the logo was introduced. So I know he's been around at least then. I don't remember him being involved in anything at Bobby Dodd or the Benz since the team took the field. And I didn't know he was a soccer hater. I didn't know he had said anything like that. Second part, Chewy says, my only gripe is the breakaway led by Nagby. He had a great match where he passed to Almiron with Gressel open too. Yep. Yep. That one, oh, man. Like, I see Gressel making the run down the right, and I'm, like, pointing at it. I'm literally, like, hand out pointing at it, and then he played it to the more difficult one. And Almiron shot wide and didn't miss by that much. But, man, that was the one I think if he plays it to Gressel, it's the goal. At least it's a little bit better chance. We can say that for sure. That was a mistake, and I'm sure Darlington would like to have that one back. Kevin from Charlotte, is Joseph's grandmother always sitting in the supporter section? That I don't know. Wouldn't surprise me. That's kind of cool.
Give them the best seats in the house.
I mean, if she wants to hang out there, for sure. I don't know if she always sits there or not. Tim Trussell-Smith, as we're wrapping up on an Overreaction Monday, Atlanta United should just go all out for one goal to start the match. Say, who cares if they get one or two? We just need one to end this. I disagree, because if they get one early, they're going to have a lot of momentum, and I don't want to give them that. I would come out first 15, 20 and do what you did on Sunday. You don't have to get more defensive. You don't have to get like negative. You don't have to bunker. Just do exactly what you did on Sunday. And if you get a chance out of it, great. If you put it away, awesome. But I wouldn't overextend myself to try to get one and risk giving one up, because that would change the nature of everything. So get through 15, 20 minutes, see where the Red Bulls are. If you need to continue with the same approach, do it. If you sense that there's blood in the water, then you go for it and you try to put it away. But I don't think you want to risk too much in doing that, because you don't want to open the door for Red Bulls to get one and change the momentum of everything. John Nason, final Overreaction Monday. What would it take to put in the 2 additional goal line assistant referees through the playoffs to assist in calls in and around the box? Paying them. That's all it is. It would just be paying them and booking them and having them there. It's something that MLS has never done. It's something we see. Is that always in every Champions League match, or is that just once you get to the knockout stage?
I thought it was just knockout.
I thought it was too. I don't think that's in the group stage, but I might be wrong. Yeah, I mean, it would make sense. I've always kind of wondered how much those referees help. I don't think they hurt, but how beneficial are they, especially now with VAR involved? I don't know if they're as necessary. I just want VAR to be more powerful, and I think that would help bridge the gap. But there's different ways to deal with it, and it just depends on what you want to pay for, what you want to have, who you have who can work those positions. I think once VAR is trained more and more experienced with it, you'll see it be more effective. It's just not quite there yet. All right, we might have had one more under the gun, and Andrew Baker.
Centralized location, and have your VAR referees, those experienced referees who are no longer on the pitch, and have them as your VARs in a centralized office in front of a bunch of monitors.
Yeah, I would be offering a VAR job to every referee that retires over
Yes.
the next 10, 15 years and put them in a centralized location. Absolutely. Final word from Andrew Baker. I think the one word I'd like to focus on this week, unfinished. 3-0 is great, but focus is important, and we still got to go out and put in a performance. If you go through to MLS Cup, you don't want to do it off the back of a defeat. I don't think it matters as much of a defeat. If it's a 1-0 Red Bulls goal in the last 15 minutes and you lose 1-0 here, but you win 3-1 in aggregate, that's completely fine. It's job done. You don't want to go sweating. You don't want to really have to grind out a 3-2 or score an extra time, 4-3 after you give up 3 goals. You don't want to have to do it that way. You want to go in comfortably. If you lose 1-0, okay, fine. If you lose 2-1, okay, fine. Those things are fine. You want to go in with a level of comfort and lift the Eastern Conference Championship trophy at Red Bull Arena and book MLS Cup at Mercedes-Benz on December 8th. But you got at least 90 minutes to do that on Thursday. We're going to be gone for, 21 and a half or so hours. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Oh, rest up. Rest your voices.
Rest up. Buckle up, Buttercup.
Seriously. Lots of stuff. Today, we'll have soccer over there at around 6:30. We'll talk Copa Libertadores. We'll talk the weekend with the leagues in Europe getting back on the field. We'll get into all that with our buddy Nick Alifi about 6:30 on the SDH app, on soccerdownhere.net, on Spreaker as well. I'll be on with Dukes and Bell on 92.9 The Game at 2:40. I'll also be on with Daniel Feuerstein's show out in New York, 9 o'clock on the Blog Talk Radio platform. I'll tweet that link out. We'll be talking more Atlanta and Red Bulls. But until then, I'm going to take a break, and I will be talking to you guys in different platforms for the rest of the day, and we'll be back tomorrow with Soccer Down Here at 9 a.m. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha mate, y'all.